Hi, I'm Susan Lewis from WRTI, and I'm here with Bob Perkins, also known as BP with the GM. Hey, Bob.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, 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 good.
Well, thanks for getting up early. You were doing your show last night.
Oh, that's great. Good. Good to see you.
We are here to talk about the music of Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker Centennial would be on August 29th, coming up. He would be 100 years old. So, BP, you've been immersed in this kind of music for many, many years. When did you first discover Charlie Parker?
Oh, I don't remember the exact year. He just came up on me. I was rooted in R&B, and then I heard about this new music, and I started listening to it, and his name popped up. We had a couple of good disc jockeys in Philadelphia, and I listened to them, and I got some kind of a nail on Charlie Parker by listening, to the broadcasters. Well, I learned most of my stuff from the great broadcasters in Philadelphia.
I know Charlie Parker played lots of different kinds of music. Do you have any favorite Charlie Parker tunes?
He put his name on a lot of great, a lot of great tunes. Not only was he great at playing the alto saxophone, he was like a god, and he had all these people following him. They were just mere people, and following him and trying to play like Charlie Parker. He started, a whole group of people wanting to play the saxophone because Charlie Parker played it so well. But it seemed as though he was just gifted, with that. And I guess he perfected it along the way. But everyone wanted to play alto saxophone because Charlie played alto saxophone, but none could quite do it like Charlie Parker.
What was it about his technique or the way he played that made him stand out from the crowd?
To me, he was melodic. That's what I try to play in my program. Melody, great melody. I never heard him play anything that was, it's technically great, but it wasn't way, what you might call way out. You couldn't understand it. I think he came along before they started doing things in jazz and kind of changing the face of it. It's always melodic, no matter how great technical ability he had. You could see or could hear what he was trying. You thought you could understand what he was doing. He only understood what he was doing, but you could kind of take a window into what he was doing. He was always melodic, and he died. He was only out there for about really 10 years because he died at 34 in 1955. But he kicked up a lot of dust before he passed on. He made a tremendous mark in the 10 years, even with the problems that he had, living
Right.
uh, with the drugs and so forth. Uh, just, as I said, kicked up a lot of dust during the time he was on the scene.
Right. And I understand that he started playing when he was very young, um, and and became quite good even when he was in his teens, and
Yeah.
played in Kansas City, Missouri, and Chicago, and went to New York and toured. He really had a lot of different experiences with a lot of the people who have become legends as well.
Yeah. He had a lot of mentors, I guess, as we all do, people that he leaned on, But it just seemed as though he was just gifted, with that. He picked up the horn and he played the heck out of it. Of course, he had tutors and so forth, but it just seemed to be, you don't know where the horn ended and where the man began, or vice versa. It seemed to be a part of it.
Right. So you share lots of this music with your listeners. Do you have some favorite Charlie Parker albums or sessions?
I just like Charlie Parker. I don't think I've ever heard too much stuff that Parker played that I didn't like. Like I said, he was always melodic. And I guess I have what ear I have. I guess leans toward melody, and that's what I try to play for some of the people who might want to listen to me. Something that you might be able to pat your foot to and hum to. I think Count Basie said, if you're playing a tune and no one's shaking their head and patting your foot, at that, in the vernacular, he said, "Don't play that no more." You know.
When we spoke earlier this week, you talked about Charlie Parker with strings as being
Yeah,
one great introduction if for people who have not become thoroughly familiar with Charlie Parker yet.
yeah, that's a great album. He was one of the first people. Got a lot of criticism because of the strings. They thought it wasn't him to be very inventive and so forth. He thought the strings were kind of holding him back. But I like the CD. Um, it's beautiful. He played mostly, standard and some of his stuff, and it just came out very well. But it had its core people who liked it and a core people who didn't like it. But it's still there, Parker with strings. Um, Nothing, very long, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, pieces of music. Nothing elongated, nothing hard, nothing difficult. It's strings accompanying him. But, with the people who like the really hard, straight ahead stuff, it didn't go down too well with them.
And I gathered he wanted strings because he was a fan of Stravinsky.
Yeah. Um, he had a very broad range. I knew someone who went to his apartment in Philadelphia. He was supposed to get a contract to play at a club or somewhere. But in the contract, it said you have to meet with these young musicians in Philadelphia. That is part of your contract, Charlie. If you can't do that, then you can't, have the contract to appear in the club or the hall or whatever you're doing. And he was late for that because he was always a bit very late. And he apologized to the kids when he got there because he was so late and they were about to leave. He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll take you up to my apartment. We can talk there." He was supposed to counsel the kids on how he became Charlie Parker and this kind of thing. And they looked through some of his albums and so forth. And they found the music that you rented. Classical music, jazz, a little bit of everything. His range was very broad as a musician. He was also very well spoken. I've heard some interviews with him, talking with various hosts. And he was very well spoken. At the age of 34, he knew a lot, not just about music, but, sometimes about world affairs and so forth, and could talk very pointedly about certain things, politics, education, whatever the case may be. So he was pretty well grounded.
Right. What do you think he was trying to do with his music? Was he just exploring all the possibilities?
I guess he might have been just things and using the creativity, the things that people had taught him over the years, along with his own innate ability. And it came out pretty well because everyone wanted to play like Charlie Parker. Whatever he was doing, he hit the spot because a lot of people, as I said earlier, they wanted to play like Bird, you know.
Right. Well, you mentioned his range, and you have on the one hand Charlie Parker with strings, which shows one kind of playing, and then you also mentioned his music that he played with Miles Davis, who was a little.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, Miles loved Charlie Parker, and somehow the two did get together, and they made an album together. And I guess that kind of really started Miles off. Miles became, great in his own way, and he was one of those who loved Charlie Parker. And I guess he was really in heaven. And Parker said, "You want to be part of my group." He didn't stay long, but they made quite an impact when they got together. And the name Bird, it was Yardbird first. And a lot of people, wondered where he got, such a name. And as the story goes, you know how stories go. Um, they get like Pinocchio's nose. They get longer and longer. But the story goes that he was driving a car, or he was a passenger in a car that went to a farmland, and the car had a chicken that was strolling across the road, and suddenly it killed the small bird. But Charlie got out of the car, had to go out, stop the car, and stop, ran back, got the chicken, took it home, and defeathered it, and ate it for dinner.
Oh,
And a dead bird, so they called it a bird. Then later on, it just became bird. When you're talking about Parker, everybody was trying to be hip, so they took the yard off and just called him Bird. So that's how his name came about. And of course, Jimmy Heath, who was a neighbor of the Perkins. The Perkins and the Heaths were neighbors many years ago in South Philadelphia. They lived right down the street from the Perkins family. Jimmy Heath was called Little Bird because he was one of those who loved the sound of Parker, and his sound was somewhat like Parker. So they were looking around for a name or something. So everybody tried to play like Parker. So Jimmy was one of them. So they called him Little Bird. So that was his name for a while, for Jimmy Heath.
so you must have been pretty young when Charlie Parker died, but it sounds as if you've heard a lot of stories about him from the people you've known.
Yeah, I got a lot of information from people, about Parker. I remember Bob Perkins was reading a local paper when I was, I guess, very early, listening to jazz. And she said, Bob, do you know anybody named Charlie Parker? I said, yeah, he was a musician, Ma. What about him? He said, well, he passed away. And I said, oh, wow. He must be reading that wrong, Ma. Let me see. Can we see the paper, please? I looked in the paper, and there it was. Charlie Parker passed away. Not much attribute. I guess maybe about a paragraph and a half at Parker, not the details of his death, but Charlie Parker, had died. And said, what an important person. Of course, a lot of people didn't quite get Charlie Parker, you know what I mean? They thought he was something, very mysterious. They didn't get the music. They didn't get Charlie Parker. They didn't really, like jazz. So I guess that's all that the editors thought we should have, just about a paragraph and a half in the paper. But later on, where he died and so forth and so on, that became larger.
He's credited with being one of the founders of bebop. What
Well,
what does that really mean?
I really a little have trouble with that because a lot of people have, kind of diminished the idiom a little bit. I just called it modern jazz. That's a lot of people call it just modern jazz, but it was, termed, bebop. But I guess everything has to have a name for identification. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people just call it bebop. But like I said, I always called him, very melodic. I never heard him go into a lot of the inventive stuff that kind of over my head. He always seemed to be, just on the ball with me. And I guess with a lot of people, was kind of on the ball. And I think a lot of people didn't like jazz, but they listened to Parker. They kind of got it,
Right. So I've heard him described as, I've heard that modern jazz described as almost analogous to Baroque or Bach because it has so many notes and still this amazing structure, but is very virtuosic.
Yeah. I don't know. It just had that magic touch. A lot of people who didn't like him first, if they listened quite enough, it kind of came to them, and they said, "Oh, I can take that." It seemed to get more popular, as it is with a lot of people who start something a little bit later on. They become very popular, more popular than they were when they had started doing whatever they were doing. They were turning people off. You listen to them, if maybe become somewhat clear to you as what they were trying to do.
So if you wanted to send us out from this interview with your a Charlie Parker to keep us going today, what would you pick?
Oh, there are just so many. People usually ask me. Uh, been around radio for, and people ask me that, and I guess it's sort of like Duke Ellington. They asked, Duke, what was your favorite song? He said, the one that I'm doing tomorrow, you know. I guess I don't really have a favorite. I just like Charlie Parker. Like I said, he never seemed to go out of my particular range. Whatever he played was just magnificent. I don't really have a favorite tune, which is from Ellington, who I guess my favorite musician because he was not only a pretty good pianist, but an orchestra leader and contributed greatly to the American songbook. Most orchestra leaders maybe couldn't write the way that he wrote so forth. Um, so that's why I kind of like him. And I guess Parker has that whole mindset, same mindset, with me. Whatever it was he was doing, I seemed to quite understand whatever it was. So I guess I don't really have a favorite piece of music that he wrote. I guess I like maybe some of the albums that we spoke of earlier. Parker was saying that's one of my favorites.
EP, what do you think? What does music do for you? What's the power of music? Why is music so important to us?
Oh, gee whiz, boy, that's a tough one. Um, I guess it's just so many things. It's so many things I guess to so many people. Um, when you can take a particular instrument, speaking about jazz now, particularly, it's just an improvised, mostly improvised music, and you can say, "Play me Starlight by Starlight," and they can play it for you without looking at a sheet of paper, and extemporaneously give you 5 minutes solo. That's fantastic. There's nothing there but the head, the eyes, and the heart. And with jazz musicians, where the music is mostly extemporaneous, someone is playing their life in miniature, where they have been, who they loved, what they like, the kind of food they like when they play. All that is encapsulated there with nothing in front of them, just extemporaneously, and say, I can play it for you 19 times and not repeat a note.
Wow.
Magic. That's what the only poetry and people, do that I have that I play, for other people and try to get other people into the mix. What jazz is. And I guess if you listen maybe long enough and your mind is open, you might try to hear what they're trying to convey, some of the things that they are trying to convey when they're playing their music, which is a piece of my life that I'm giving to you. Where did I get it? Well, I guess you're going to have to have been with me when I sat at the table and ate whatever the case may be, or when I saw over there, or why I like him, or why I like her, or whatever the case may be. It's all encapsulated in that music. And I find that in jazz music. I'm trying to think along with the entertainer, with the artist, and trying to figure out what the heck he or she is singing about or playing on the instrument. Trying to get inside of the music and a picture of the personality and who they are, you know. Maybe I'm making it overblown or whatever the case may be. I don't know, but that's how I see the music. And that's what I try to deliver to my listeners when I'm BP behind the mic and doing whatever it is that I do, trying to bring everybody together. And what better time to do it than as of right now in this particular time in which we live? I guess it's really needed.
Right. Well, we're so grateful to you, BP. Thank you so much for sharing the music, sharing your thoughts today. Uh, look forward to the next time you're on the mic and sharing the good music with all of us.
Thank you for asking me. I'm just glad to be a part of what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.